The sun hung low over the alien desert, painting the sand in harsh orange streaks that shimmered with heat. Rylan cross-gripped the handles of his hoverbike, the engine humming beneath him. The horizon blurred with the first hints of a storm, but this wasn't an ordinary storm. The wind twisted unnaturally, kicking up metallic dust that stung his eyes and clung to his leather jacket. Ahead, a small caravan crawled across the dunes, humans and traders, their wagons barely visible through the shimmering air. Rylan's instinct screamed danger before his eyes could confirm it. A shape leapt from the sand, impossibly fast, scales catching the dying sunlight. The creature was enormous, long neck, jagged fins along its spine, eyes glowing pale green. A low, guttural roar shook the air, sending the travelers scrambling. Rylan didn't hesitate. He flipped the bike into a sharper angle, skidding across the sand, and drew his repulsor pistol. Each shot emitted a magnetic pulse that made the creature stumble slightly, giving the caravan a few seconds to scatter. He saw the horror on their faces. The humans didn't know what they were facing. Some fell behind, caught in the swirling dust. Then he noticed her. A figure taller than most, moved with a strange elegance among the panic. Her long, scaled arms folded at her chest, eyes sharp, amber glowing faintly. She didn't scream, didn't flee, she just watched. Something about her made Rylan's pulse quicken. She wasn't human, but she wasn't attacking either. And yet, the creature seemed drawn to her, hesitating as it reached the edge of the caravan. "Get back!" Rylan shouted, firing another pulse. The creature roared, recoiling, but its eyes never left the dragon woman. A small wagon tipped, sending crates of glowing cargo spilling. Rylan dove, pulling the driver to safety as a shard of sand-slicked metal bounced dangerously close. The dragon woman's eyes flicked toward him for the first time, a mixture of caution and curiosity. Rylan's bike groaned under a sudden sand slip. The storm hit harder now, wind slicing across his face. He realized the creature was not acting alone. The storm itself seemed alive, swirling with faint, bioluminescent sparks that moved like eyes watching from within the dust. This was no ordinary desert. It felt like the ground itself was testing them. "Can you move?" Rylan called over the wind to the dragon woman. Her amber eyes met his, and for a moment he saw something human behind the alien scales. Fear, uncertainty, but also strength. She nodded slightly, almost imperceptibly. That small gesture gave him a spark of hope. The creature lunged again, faster this time. Rylan jumped off the bike, rolling to absorb the impact as it smashed a wagon wheel. Sparks flew. He scrambled to his feet, scanning the storm. He saw a faint glow beneath the dragon woman's hands, a pulse of energy that sent the creature reeling. She didn't speak, didn't even move her lips, yet somehow the attack faltered. For a brief, shocking second, he realized she was controlling it, somehow holding back the storm's fury. Rylan seized the moment. He grabbed a glowing crate from the wreckage, some kind of energy supply, and threw it into the sand. The pulse from it sent the creature stumbling back. The caravan, disoriented but alive, scrambled past him. The dragon woman glanced at him, eyes wide, not fear but acknowledgement. He didn't have time to ask questions. Survival demanded action now. The wind twisted again, revealing a silhouette that made Rylan's stomach drop. A massive shape loomed just beyond the storm, larger than any creature he had ever faced. Its eyes were like molten gold, fixed on them, glowing through the dust. The ground trembled beneath its weight. He realized with a jolt that the smaller creature was only the beginning. Something far worse had been watching them all along. "Hold on," he muttered to himself, tightening his grip on the pistol. The dragon woman moved closer, the faint glow in her hands flaring brighter as if sensing the new threat. For the first time she spoke, not words, just a low hiss that cut through the roaring wind. But Rylan understood it in some instinctive human way. She was ready. The massive silhouette stepped forward. The sand quaked with every movement. The smaller creature hissed at it, then retreated, vanishing into the storm. Rylan's mind raced. He had no idea what this was, no clue how they could survive. But he didn't freeze. Humans didn't freeze. He turned to the dragon woman. "Then let's do it, together," he shouted over the storm, adrenaline burning in his veins. The wind howled louder, and the massive dragon-like figure's eyes glowed brighter, cutting through the desert's orange haze. Rylan felt the ground shift beneath his boots, felt the storm pulse with life. And in that moment he knew everything was about to change. The desert wasn't just dangerous, it was alive, testing them. And the real challenge was only beginning. Rylan's heart pounded as the giant silhouette advanced through the storm, each step making the sand shudder beneath him. The wind tore at his coat, filled with biting metallic grit, but he refused to back down. Behind him, the caravan huddled together, trembling, watching in terror. The smaller creature had vanished, but the bigger one seemed alive in ways he couldn't understand. Its golden eyes scanned, calculating, intelligent. This was no mindless beast, it was a predator, and he had to think fast. The dragon woman stepped closer, her amber eyes glowing brighter. She moved with a grace that made her seem taller, almost regal. She had not yet spoken a word, but Rylan could feel the energy pulsing from her. Whatever she was hiding, it was powerful. He needed her cooperation and fast. "Hey!" he shouted over the wind. "You can control it, right? Use it." She hesitated, then tilted her head slightly, acknowledging him. Her hands glowed faintly, and the air around them shimmered. The giant creature froze mid-step, its golden eyes narrowing at the pulse she sent. It roared, a deafening sound that shook the caravan, and slammed a massive claw into the sand, sending sparks and grit flying. Rylan ducked behind a toppled wagon. Sparks hissed as metal touched sand, and he realized quickly that the crates they carried weren't just supplies, they were energy packs. If used correctly, they could disrupt the creature's balance. He grabbed one and tossed it toward the dragon woman. She caught it midair, eyes flicking at him briefly, then focused on the creature. The crate pulsed, sending a shockwave that made the ground tremble and the monster stumble back. The caravan erupted into cheers and cries. Survivors helped each other up, some clutching their wagons, some hugging terrified friends. Rylan saw one little girl, no older than 7, staring wide-eyed at the glowing creature. He ran to her, scooping her up. "It's okay, kid. Stay close to me." The dragon woman's energy flared, surrounding the girl in a protective shimmer. Rylan noticed something unexpected. She didn't just repel the creature, she seemed to speak to it. The golden eyes softened for a brief second, then darted away as if the creature was listening, weighing her words. A shiver ran down Rylan's spine. How was this possible? How could she control something so massive and dangerous? Suddenly, the ground beneath the caravan shifted violently. The desert itself seemed to react to the storm, creating deep cracks that swallowed wheels and rocks. Rylan barely leapt to safety, pulling the little girl with him. He turned to see the dragon woman leap with astonishing speed, landing gracefully on a higher dune. From there, she sent a pulse of energy that stabilized the ground just enough for the caravan to move forward. Small cheers broke out again, temporary, fragile victories, but the storm was relentless. Rylan made a quick decision. "We head to the canyon," he yelled. He pointed to a jagged opening in the desert, partially shielded from the full force of the storm. The survivors hesitated, fear written on every face. No time to argue. "Move." The group scrambled, wheels spinning in sand, hoverbikes wobbling. Rylan stayed close to the dragon woman. He realized something vital. Her trust would make the difference between life and death. He had to earn it. "We'll make it," he said, though his voice wavered. "Stick with me." As they approached the canyon, another threat appeared. From the edge of the storm, small glowing drones, no bigger than a fist, began buzzing toward the caravan. They weren't animals and they weren't part of the storm, they were machines, scanning, targeting. Rylan acted instinctively. He threw another energy crate, detonating it in a controlled burst. The drones scattered, sparks flying, and the caravan pushed forward, using the disruption to gain ground. The dragon woman's eyes narrowed at the drones, and for the first time she spoke. Her voice was low and melodic, almost a whisper carried on the wind. "They test the strong. Only the weak are taken." Rylan froze for a heartbeat, realizing the implications. This desert, these storms, these creatures, they weren't random. They were trials, measuring courage, strength, and willpower. He glanced at the caravan, then back at the dragon woman. "Then we'll pass the test," he said firmly, determination hardening his features. But just as hope flickered, the massive creature from before reappeared at the canyon's edge, moving faster than Rylan thought possible. Its golden eyes glowed brighter, scanning, searching. The caravan froze, but the dragon woman raised her hands, and a wall of energy shimmered around them. Sparks danced along its edges as the storm whipped around them. Rylan's pulse raced. This was the true test. He could feel it, the storm, the creatures, the machines, they were all connected. And if he failed, everyone would die. Yet he didn't hesitate. He scanned the canyon for advantage points, for traps, for anything he could use. His mind raced, calculating every risk. Humans survived because they adapted. They fought with brains as much as strength. The dragon woman looked at him, eyes flickering with surprise. Perhaps she hadn't expected him to act so quickly, so decisively. For the first time she smiled faintly, an acknowledgement of partnership. Rylan gritted his teeth, hoverbike at the ready. "Let's make it through," he shouted. The survivors cheered, renewed hope flickering in their eyes. But the golden-eyed creature's roar drowned it out, a deep rumble that made the sand quake. The storm twisted violently, revealing a shimmering figure behind the creature, one far larger, more terrifying, with multiple glowing eyes scanning the desert. Rylan froze. The fight wasn't over. It had only begun. The dragon woman's hands flared brighter, energy crackling like lightning. Rylan clenched his fists, knowing that the next move would decide whether they survived, or became another story swallowed by the desert. And then the desert shifted beneath them again, violently, as if alive. Something moved beneath the sand, massive and unseen. The caravan lurched, wheels spinning, hoverbikes tilting. Rylan's eyes widened in alarm. This wasn't just a test of courage. This was a battlefield he didn't yet understand. He turned to the dragon woman. "We have to trust each other, now?" The wind howled louder, the energy pulses shimmered brighter, and the desert's secrets waited to strike. Rylan's boots sank into the trembling sand as the ground shuddered beneath him. The unseen force moving below the desert wasn't slowing. He grabbed the little girl he had saved, shielding her as cracks zigzagged through the dunes. The massive golden-eyed creature had paused, its glowing gaze sweeping the caravan, but the unseen movement in the sand was even more terrifying. Rylan realized with a jolt that the desert itself was alive, or at least something buried beneath it was testing them. The dragon woman stepped forward, her amber eyes blazing. Her hands glowed like molten gold, sending ripples of energy through the air. "It senses fear," she hissed, voice low but urgent. "It feeds on hesitation. Stand firm, or be lost." Rylan nodded, though fear gnawed at him. Humans didn't back down, not when others depended on them. He scanned the canyon walls for cover and advantage points, noticing strange alien markings etched into the stone. The lines pulsed faintly with energy, almost as if they were alive, like the desert itself had intelligence. "We need to move fast," he shouted over the wind. "Those cracks, they're spreading. If we get trapped, it's over." The dragon woman lifted a hand, and energy arced across the cracks, stabilizing the sand for the caravan. For a brief moment, they moved as one unit, hoverbikes and wagons weaving through the uneven ground. Rylan's pulse raced. The little girl clutched his jacket, eyes wide with terror, yet he felt a spark of pride. They were surviving. That small victory, fleeting though it was, gave him energy to think faster, act faster. Then a flash of light erupted from one of the canyon walls. Rylan ducked instinctively as a shard of glowing crystal exploded outward. He turned to see the dragon woman standing at the edge of the fissure, energy pulsing from her hands into the wall. "These ruins, they're not dead," she said, voice trembling with awe. "They remember, they protect." Rylan's mind raced. The canyon wasn't just a shelter, it was a remnant of a civilization long gone. And these ruins weren't inert, they were alive in some way. "Then maybe it's not just the desert we're fighting," he said. "Maybe it's this place itself." Suddenly the golden-eyed creature lunged. Its massive claws tore through the sand, sending debris flying. Rylan reacted instantly, grabbing an energy crate from a toppled wagon and hurling it at the beast. The pulse disrupted its charge, sending it reeling back, but it quickly recovered, eyes narrowing in anger. The dragon woman's energy flared again, and Rylan noticed something remarkable. Her pulses weren't just defensive, they seemed to communicate. The creature hesitated, almost as if it understood. And then, more startlingly, the cracks in the sand began to pulse in rhythm with her energy, stabilizing sections that were moments ago about to collapse. Rylan's mind clicked. "She's not just fighting it, she's controlling the battlefield," he realized aloud. "She's turning their strength against them." He watched in awe as she stepped closer to the fissures, sending a series of precise energy waves into the canyon floor. The golden-eyed creature roared but froze, tilting its massive head as if confused. Rylan realized the smaller storm creatures had been testing the caravan's courage and resourcefulness, and now the true challenge was revealed. The desert itself and the ruins buried within were alive and assessing them. Rylan's pulse quickened as he made a bold decision. "We need to move deeper into the ruins," he shouted to the caravan. "There's shelter and we might find answers." The dragon woman's gaze met his. For a brief instant she looked human, vulnerable. Then her amber eyes flared with resolve. Without another word, she led the way, her energy pulses carving safe paths through the unstable sand. The caravan followed, trust forming silently between them. Inside the canyon, The walls glimmered with ancient holographic projections. Faint figures of dragon-like beings flickered across the stone, moving as though alive. Ryland froze. "Are those real?" he whispered. "They are memories," the dragon woman replied softly. "Of a civilization that bred my kind. They abandoned us, feared our power, rejected me, left me to survive alone." Her voice cracked slightly. "I've carried their silence for centuries." Ryland's chest tightened. He realized the depth of her isolation, not just alien but betrayed by her own people. His heart ached, but he couldn't dwell. The golden-eyed creature had reappeared, its massive form now at the mouth of the canyon, glowing eyes fixed on them. "We use the ruins," Ryland said decisively, scanning the glowing alien scripts. "We combine your energy and my tactics. We turn their defenses against the creature." The dragon woman hesitated, uncertainty flashing briefly across her face. Then she nodded. Energy surged from her hands into the canyon walls, activating ancient defense mechanisms. Shards of rock lifted, forming barriers and channels. Ryland directed the caravan, shouting orders, using the environment to create choke points, forcing the golden-eyed creature into narrow paths. The first clash sent sparks and debris flying. Ryland's quick thinking allowed them to avoid the worst, and each small victory, each pulse that slowed the monster or stabilized a crumbling ledge, gave the caravan hope. The little girl clutched Ryland's side, whispering, "You can do it," and he smiled briefly, heartened by her trust. Then, unexpectedly, a second flash appeared, holograms of other dragon hybrids, abandoned like her, flickering in the canyon walls. They moved as if alive, their eyes glowing faintly. The dragon woman gasped. They are waiting," she whispered. "All of them, waiting for someone to awaken them." Ryland's mind raced. If she could awaken them, they could fight, not just survive. But could she trust him enough to try? Could they survive the golden-eyed guardian long enough to find out? The creature roared, shaking the canyon walls. Rocks tumbled, the ground quaked, and Ryland realized they were at a turning point. Fight with every ounce of courage or be swallowed by the desert alive. He glanced at the dragon woman. Her amber eyes were resolute now, glowing brighter than ever. "We do this together," he said firmly. She nodded, energy crackling around her. And then the ground beneath them trembled violently, deeper than before. From the shadows of the canyon floor, something enormous stirred, something older than the desert itself, unseen until now. Ryland felt his pulse spike. This wasn't just a battle, it was a test of trust, courage, and human ingenuity against forces far beyond anything he had imagined. The desert's secrets were waking, and they were ready to strike. The desert trembled like it had a heartbeat, and Ryland's boots sank into sand that shifted beneath him. The golden-eyed creature loomed at the canyon's entrance, its massive form blotting out the sun. Sparks danced across its scales as energy from the dragon woman's pulses collided with the ground, stabilizing the trembling rocks. But Ryland knew stabilization alone wouldn't be enough. This was no ordinary predator, it was intelligent, calculating, and far stronger than anything he had faced. "Everyone behind the walls?" Ryland shouted, his voice cutting through the storm. The caravan scrambled as the dragon woman flared her hands, sending arcs of energy across the canyon floor, raising barriers of glowing stone to shield them. He could feel the vibrations from the creature's steps, each one a hammer on the sand, threatening to collapse everything. Ryland scanned quickly. The canyon walls were etched with alien glyphs that pulsed faintly in rhythm with the dragon woman's energy. A risky idea struck him. "We use the ruins. Force it into the narrow passages," he yelled. The survivors hesitated, fear frozen on their faces. "No time to wait, trust me." The dragon woman's amber eyes met his. For a moment he thought she would refuse, but instead she nodded. Energy surged from her hands, amplifying his plan. Rocks and debris lifted, forming channels and barriers, guiding the creature toward the narrowest section of the canyon. The creature roared, a sound that made the ground shake violently, and lunged forward. Ryland ducked behind a barrier, gripping his repulsor pistol. "Now block its path," he yelled. The dragon woman released a powerful pulse, slamming into the creature's chest. It staggered, sparks flying from contact with the energy shield. Ryland saw an opening and acted instinctively. He activated one of the energy crates, sending a shockwave into the narrow canyon walls. The creature roared again, stumbling, temporarily disoriented. The little girl clutched his side, whispering, "You can do it." Her trust sparked a fire in him he hadn't expected. Humans survived because they adapted, because they didn't give up when the odds were impossible. He scanned the terrain, calculating. The creature's mass and momentum worked against it in the confined canyon. Each pulse, each crate, each careful move pushed it closer to a choke point. Then the impossible happened. From the sand beneath, a massive form stirred, older, unseen, and larger than the golden-eyed creature. The ground quaked violently. The carvings on the canyon walls glowed, responding to the ancient presence. The dragon woman's eyes widened. It's awake. The protector of the ruins. Rylan felt his heart hammer. He realized that the storms, the creatures, the tests, they were all part of a system designed to challenge intruders, to measure courage, intelligence, and trust. And now the true guardian had awoken. The massive form shifted beneath the sand, revealing scales that shimmered like molten metal. Its eyes glowed white-hot as it emerged, dwarfing the golden-eyed creature. The smaller creature froze in fear, realizing it was no longer the alpha. Rylan didn't hesitate. Dragon woman, we combine our energy, focus it on the canyon walls. Force it back. She hesitated, fear flickering, but then nodded. Her pulses of energy intensified, the walls of the canyon glowing like a protective cage. Sparks flew as the massive guardian roared, swinging claws that could have crushed their hoverbikes like twigs. Rylan moved with lightning speed, dodging debris, using the terrain to channel the creature's momentum into the walls. Each action had consequence, each movement precise. The little girl clung to him, but he kept one eye on her and one on the guardian. He realized that sheer force wouldn't win, they had to outthink it. He activated another energy crate, sending a pulse that resonated with the dragon woman's energy. The combined effect caused the guardian to stumble, its massive body pressed into the canyon walls. For a brief, thrilling moment, the impossible became possible. Then the dragon woman spoke, her voice clear for the first time, cutting through the roar. Rylan, you must lead it. She gestured toward a narrow path in the canyon, eyes steady. I'll hold the energy field, push it into the channel. Rylan clenched his teeth and nodded. He jumped onto his hoverbike, accelerating toward the guardian. Sparks and sand exploded around him as he dodged swinging claws. His heart pounded, adrenaline surging. Using the bike's weight, he veered, nudging the guardian toward the narrow channel. The dragon woman's energy flared, walls closing behind it like a trap. The guardian struggled, massive claws scraping stone, but the combined human ingenuity and alien energy proved too much. With a final, earth-shaking roar, it slammed against the walls and halted. The golden-eyed creature backed away, cowering. The storm began to dissipate, winds dying, leaving the canyon eerily quiet except for the heavy breathing of survivors. Rylan's legs trembled as he jumped from the hoverbike. The little girl hugged him tightly, her eyes wide with relief. The dragon woman approached, her hands still glowing faintly. For the first time she smiled fully. You saved us all, she said softly. Her amber eyes met his and something unspoken passed between them. A trust, a bond forged in fire and sand. Rylan smiled back, feeling the weight of what they had survived. We did it together, he said. The storm was gone, the guardian subdued, but the ruins pulsed faintly, alive in ways they didn't yet understand. Then a new shimmer appeared along the canyon walls. A holographic display flickered to life, showing rows of dragon hybrids, abandoned and waiting, their eyes glowing faintly. The dragon woman's gaze hardened. They are waiting, all of them, she whispered, for someone to awaken them. Rylan's pulse raced. Their battle was won, but this was only the beginning. The ruins were alive, the desert still held secrets, and the galaxy beyond promised even greater challenges. He looked at the dragon woman. Then we awaken them, he said, determination in his voice. She nodded, energy crackling in her hands ready to follow. The desert remained silent for a heartbeat. Then the wind whispered across the canyon, carrying a promise. This victory was just the start. Something far larger waited, and they would need every ounce of courage, intelligence, and heart to face it. Rylan stepped carefully over the cracked canyon floor, the little girl clinging to his side. The golden-eyed creature crouched at the far end, subdued but alive, its breathing heavy and labored. The dragon woman's amber eyes glowed faintly, pulsing with energy that still lingered in the canyon walls. For the first time the desert felt quiet, not empty but watchful, as if it acknowledged their victory. They're waiting, she whispered again, her voice low but steady. She gestured toward the faint holographic projections along the canyon walls. Dragon hybrids, abandoned and motionless, eyes glowing softly in the dim light. Rylan squinted, counting them. Rows upon rows, hundreds, maybe more. Each seemed alive, aware but dormant, waiting for something or someone to awaken them. Rylan felt a thrill of fear and hope. Humans survived because they faced the impossible, because they acted when others hesitated. He looked at the dragon woman. "Then we awaken them," he said firmly. She nodded, energy flaring brighter in response, and together they began to move toward the projections. The first touch of her hand against the canyon wall sent a ripple of light cascading across the holograms. Slowly, one figure moved, a single dragon hybrid blinking to life. Its eyes were cautious, unsure, and yet recognition passed across its gaze. Rylan smiled, feeling the spark of hope ignite. If even one could awaken, more could follow. "Keep going," he urged. He moved beside her, guiding the little girl safely as the walls pulsed with energy. Every step brought more hybrids to life, their forms shimmering, scales gleaming, wings flexing for the first time in centuries. The dragon woman hummed softly, a sound like wind over metal, coaxing the others to rise. Rylan felt a deep admiration. She had survived betrayal, abandonment, and centuries of solitude, yet now she was giving life back to her kind. The golden-eyed creature stirred but did not attack. It seemed aware that the battle was over. Perhaps it understood that Rylan and the dragon woman were not threats. They were catalysts. The desert, the storms, even the Guardian had all been tests, designed to measure their courage and intelligence. And they had passed. Rylan crouched beside the little girl, whispering, "See? We did it. All of them, alive again." Her eyes sparkled with wonder as she watched the hybrids awaken, wings flexing and tails flicking. Some glanced at the dragon woman with recognition, others at Rylan, as if understanding that this human had fought not for glory but for life itself. One of the hybrids, larger than the rest, stepped forward, its scales shimmering in a soft gold. The dragon woman's eyes widened slightly. She is the first of the old line," she said, voice trembling with awe. "The leader. She waited, like me, for someone to show courage, to show mercy." Rylan felt a warmth rise in his chest. Humans survived because they had heart, because they cared for others when survival alone wasn't enough. He had acted without hesitation, protecting the caravan, guiding the little girl, and trusting the dragon woman even though he didn't fully understand her. That trust had created a bond strong enough to awaken an entire line of guardians. The wind shifted again, but now it was softer, almost gentle, carrying a faint hum from the canyon walls. Rylan looked around, no storm, no shaking ground, only the quiet energy of life restored. The little girl tugged at his sleeve. "Will they be safe now?" she asked. "Yes," Rylan said, smiling. "They'll protect themselves now, and so will we." He glanced at the dragon woman. For the first time her posture relaxed. The weight of centuries of rejection and loneliness seemed to ease from her shoulders. She looked at him, and for a brief moment, Rylan felt something unspoken pass between them. Trust, respect, maybe even a spark of something deeper. The dragon woman finally spoke fully, her voice clear, melodic. "You have courage," she said. "You fight not for yourself but for others. That is rare. That is human." Rylan shrugged, a grin spreading across his face despite the exhaustion. "We humans have a habit of surviving," he said. "Sometimes, it's about heart more than strength." The golden-eyed creature stepped back, then turned, disappearing into the far dunes. The storm had vanished completely. For the first time, the desert felt still, almost alive in a quiet, watchful way. Rylan looked at the newly awakened dragon hybrids. Rows of them flexed wings, stretched muscles, and regarded the canyon with awareness. They were alive again, ready to reclaim their place in the world. The dragon woman extended her hand toward Rylan. "You saved more than just lives," she said softly. "You reminded us that courage and compassion matter." Her amber eyes shone like fire reflected in water. Rylan felt an unexpected warmth in his chest. He extended his hand, brushing hers briefly. "Then we make it count," he said. The little girl squealed happily, running forward to watch the hybrids playfully interact with one another. For the first time since the desert had swallowed them in fire and sand, Rylan allowed himself to breathe. They had faced impossible odds, survived tests beyond imagination, and awakened an ancient power. But he knew this was not the end. Beyond the desert, beyond the ruins, a galaxy waited. If humans could shine here, in a forgotten canyon full of abandoned dragons, what could they do out there, in the vastness of the stars? The dragon woman's gaze flicked to the horizon. "The others, beyond these ruins," she murmured, "they are still waiting." Rylan's heart quickened. Adventure, danger, and discovery were still ahead. But he had learned something vital. Humans survive, humans endure, and humans inspire courage in others, even ancient, abandoned creatures. He turned to the little girl. "We'll be ready," he said, voice steady. "No matter what comes next." The sun dipped lower, painting the desert in gold and fire. The dragon hybrids gathered, wings flexing, ready for whatever awaited them. Rylan and the dragon woman stood side by side, watching the horizon, the future uncertain but bright with promise. And somewhere beyond the dunes, the faint shimmer of another ancient presence stirred, a reminder that the galaxy was vast, alive, and full of mysteries still waiting to be challenged. The desert whispered its secret. Survival was only the beginning. Courage, intelligence, heart, they were the keys. And humans could shine in ways no one expected. Curiosity loops closed for the canyon battle. HFY theme reinforced. Human courage, intelligence, compassion, and determination saved lives and inspired trust across species. The galaxy beyond the desert holds ancient powers and mysteries still waiting, hinting at new adventures, higher stakes, and larger forces for humans to confront.